Hello again and welcome to The Verdict. Mick Cornett and Kent Myers. We're here every week discussing topical issues and meeting some interesting people. And this week, a very important guest, especially at this time of year.
Indeed. We're having the Speaker of the House, Todd Hiett, join us, who's going to be talking about a number of things. The previous legislative session. He'll be talking about what he expects coming up in this current session that's just begun. And we'll be talking to him about his ambitions and aspirations for the office of Lieutenant Governor.
No end to the number of topics we could get into today with Todd Hiett.
No, and as you said, every week we've been on. This is week number 250 for us.
And they said it wouldn't last.
What did they know?
We'll be right back. Todd Hiett, Speaker of the House, is here today on The Verdict.
For one Oklahoma-based company, success didn't happen overnight. Initially, the days were long, 80-hour weeks common. As we grew, we wanted to share our success, and the ideals of corporate and civic responsibility found a welcome home. Today, we're the largest investor in the Sooner State, and a source for exciting, new, high-quality jobs. We're Chesapeake Energy, committed to building a better Oklahoma.
All children deserve a life of hope and love, but sometimes they experience a life of pain, neglect, and abuse.
When that happens, each child deserves all the quality assistance and representation that can be offered in our legal system. For more information, call 23-CHILD.
Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, helping to bring hope and love back to the lives of abused children.
He's gonna score. Come on, baby. Come on, baby. Go!
Satellite go out again?
Yeah, rain. But this is just as fun.
Don't live in satellite denial. Get the reliability you expect from Cox, your friend in the digital age.
The Cox Channel. More sports. More fans. More cheerleaders. More fun. Nobody does more local sports, and nobody does it better.
Welcome back to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers, and Kent's going to introduce today's guest.
Very pleased today to have with us for a second time the Honorable Todd Hiett, the Speaker of the House of the Oklahoma House of Representatives, native of Kellyville, a farmer and rancher there, 12-year veteran of the legislature, getting ready to start his 12th term, and will be term limited out after this session. He's a graduate of Oklahoma State University, and he is a candidate for Lieutenant Governor. As soon as this term expires, he's a candidate for Lieutenant Governor of the state of Oklahoma. Mr. Speaker, thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you, Ken. Thank you, Mick, for having me today.
We're glad you're here. Now, 2005 legislative session, that was, if a legislative session can be wild and crazy, that was pretty wild and crazy.
Yes, it was.
Looking back, now with a little bit of hindsight, a chance to catch our breaths and looking back, what were the highlights to you, and what viewpoints do you think will go into the history books for that session?
Well, I think it will be viewed as a session that was a major turning point in Oklahoma. It was a time, in terms of policy, it was really the first session, and I've served since 1994, and so I've been through many sessions when really the legislature really never got down to the major issues facing the state. But last year we were able, even in an environment where you had Republicans in control of the House, Democrats in control of the Senate, Democrat in the governor's mansion, most people thought nothing would happen. Most people thought that we would have total gridlock because of the two different parties controlling different areas of state government. But at the end of the day, there was a dynamic that occurred that enabled us to push forward some major policy initiatives, such as a workers' comp reform bill, that will produce a significant savings for Oklahoma employers, $120 million per year, reducing the litigation involved in that system, some major tax restructuring. There were some very positive things that happened last session in terms of building Oklahoma's economy for the future.
Now, as far as the consensus building goes, take us through that process, and in retrospect, how did things work? Because, as you mentioned, having a Republican lead in the House and having a Democratic lead in the Senate was an interesting dynamic.
Right.
Yeah, with the Senate lead changing.
Right.
From Cal Hobson.
That's
to Mike
right.
Morgan.
That was a dynamic no one expected, even after it started. Well, as we started the session, I think even those of us directly involved didn't quite know what to expect because we didn't know what the other would do, and so we began session, and it was rocky for a while because I think you had a lot of people trying to establish their positions, but somewhere during the midst of the session, I think we all realized, when I say all, the governor and the leader of the Senate and myself as the leader of the House, I think we realized that nothing would be accomplished unless we found agreement. And so we were able to go in and just find areas of agreement. Now the House pushed forward the agenda that ended up becoming the agenda of the legislature, because if you looked at the governor's office and the Senate, were not coming forward with a lot of major agenda items last year. The House, being a Republican House that was in the majority for the first time, we had many years worth of agenda items that had built up that had not been accomplished. And so we had workers' comp reform, we wanted to reduce the income tax rate, some pro-family, pro-life issues that we wanted to advance. We had a long agenda, and that ended up becoming kind of the context that we built the session around, and the governor was willing to get on board with some of those issues, and eventually the Senate was willing to put them through.
How do you like dealing with Mike Morgan in the Senate?
Well, we have very different philosophies, very different views as to how to best build the future of the state. But again, it comes back to we are both realists, and we recognize that nothing will happen unless we both agree to it. I know that nothing's going to happen. I can pass bills through the House all year long, but nothing's going to happen unless that bill also advances through the Senate and obtains a governor's signature.
We talk about R's and D's, and we also talk about rural versus urban. How does that play out? Is that dissolving through the years, or is it getting even stronger?
I think that really that is I think there's been a myth out there that, that as the rural, with the outmigration of population from the rural part of the state, they would lose influence in the legislature and would be left behind. But I think everyone recognizes, whether they're in rural Oklahoma or in the urban part of the state, I think we all recognize to build a strong state, you can't leave rural Oklahoma out. And so it's been so interesting. It's something that I've heard for years that Republicans are mostly from the urban areas, and so once the Republicans take the majority, the rural people will no longer have a voice. Well, what happened when the Republicans took the majority for the first time since 1922? They elected a dairy farmer as Speaker of the House. So what an interesting dynamic. And really, if you look at the issues that we are coming forward with in the House, look at the agenda. We have worked all summer and fall on what we called the READY initiative that focused specifically on rural Oklahoma, and we're coming forward this session with a strong agenda for the rural part of the state. So here, under Republican leadership, while the myth has always been Republicans would not represent rural Oklahoma, under Republican leadership, the rural part of the state for the first time is really coming to the forefront in terms of policy.
Let me ask you about special sessions. When the session ended last year, there was talk that some wanted a special session. You did not. It did not happen. In retrospect now, are you glad it didn't happen, or do you wish it had happened?
No, I am glad that it did not happen. There was never a reason to have a special session. The only reason to have a special session would be if there was something that was timely, that was of an emergency nature. That's the way a special session was designed. something that had to be done now, something that was an emergency. But then the third factor is that you had to have an agreement. I mean, there had to be something that you could advance in a special session. Just bringing the legislators into a special session accomplishes nothing unless you have a proposal that you can advance while you're there in special session. The Department of Corrections has been the issue around this special session. There has not been an agreement to date. Now, the House Republicans have come forward with a proposal that will not only invest more dollars into the Department of Corrections, but more importantly, will reform the way we manage the Department of Corrections. And we are asking now the Democrat leadership in the Senate to meet with us to so we can reach agreement on that plan and hopefully advance it early in the regular session.
We're taping this show in January. Session starts in February. What do you hope to accomplish this session?
I hope this session, lawsuit reform was an issue that we had on the table last year that we were not able to advance, and so I hope we will be able to advance significant lawsuit reform, curbing frivolous lawsuits in the state. Further tax restructuring. Last year we reduced the income tax by 0.4%. We hope to take a second step in terms of reducing the income tax, making Oklahoma more competitive in attracting jobs and business and industry and people of wealth from out of state. Another item that we'll be making a priority this year in the House is the elimination of the death tax. We think that the death tax is just wrong. It's wrong to tax people when they die. These small businesses and farms and ranches have paid taxes on those dollars over and over again during their lifetime. We think it's wrong to tax them again at death. Also, we think it's an economic feature. We think the elimination of the death tax will better position Oklahoma to attract, particularly retirees that have assets and wealth that they're concerned about protecting. We think that it will better position Oklahoma to attract those and to keep retirees that we have.
Well, let me jump in here and get us to a break. There's a speaker in the House, Todd Hiett, today's guest on The Verdict.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information.
And Blankenship has stopped at the line of scrimmage. No gain on the play. Leaving it 4th and 7 on the Tiger 46-yard line. 38 seconds on the clock. The Tigers have no choice but to go for it. Wiggins had to do the kicking. Here's the snap. And the kick is away.
R.S.M. McGladry. We're accountants. We do taxes, business valuations, estate planning, and consulting. And we're right here in Oklahoma working with the owners of small and medium-sized businesses. Steve Wilsey and Stuart Meyer have the resources and the experience. R.S.M. McGladry. In Oklahoma City, the phone number is 405-843-5311.
Not sure where you're headed? NATS can help you find your way. It's the National Athletic Testing System. We call it NATS. You'll call it your launching pad to success. NATS will give you a standardized evaluation that will help you measure your performance and give that information to college coaches so they can accurately evaluate your potential. NATS also helps with academic support. Join with the Oklahoma High School Football Coaches Association and head for success at www.nats.us.
You need this one to get satellite HD. This one's your DVR. This one's for local channels. This one's...
What are we supposed to do with all this stuff?
Got you covered. Oh, by the way, that old satellite stuff makes a great end cable.
That doesn't look so bad, right, honey?
Don't live in satellite denial. Get the latest entertainment without the hassles from Cox, your friend in the digital age.
Welcome back to The Verdict. Mick Cornett and Kent Myers, as always. Our guest is Speaker of the House, Todd Hiett.
Mr. Speaker, you're term limiting out.
Yes, sir.
This is your last session. What do you think about the concept of term limits? There's some talk about doing away with it. Others say it's a great thing. What do you think about it?
Well, I've been a strong advocate for term limits for a long time, and now that I am a term-limited member of the House of Representatives, having served 12 years, I'm frequently asked the question, well, do you still believe in term limits? And I do. I think 12 years is a long time, and I've heard the arguments that, well, it takes a certain number of years for legislators to get up to speed in the process and so on and so forth, but 12 years is a long time. And if a person can't get up to speed in the process in 12 years, they probably didn't have any business there to start with. And so I believe that it enables more people to bring their ideas from the people in their community to the legislature, and I continue to be a strong advocate of term limits at the state level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But you have indicated plans to run for lieutenant governor, and you have an active campaign going on. What do you base your campaign on? What is the message for Todd Hiett as lieutenant governor candidate?
Well, I think proven leadership. The state of Oklahoma is at a very critical juncture right now. I mean, we have an opportunity to really move forward for the first time in a long time. We have, on one front, we have an economy that's doing better. A lot of argument about, well, will that maintain over the long term or not? Well, bottom line is it won't if we don't make it. And this is the opportunity that we have to use the strong economy that we're enjoying right now as a launching pad to build a future in this state. That includes, of course, major policy reforms that we've talked about, the lawsuit reforms, workers' comp reforms that we've advocated, a road plan, making a major investment into states' highways and bridges.
What would you like to see with the roads and highways and bridges? How do you resolve that?
Motor vehicle taxes have been collected for many years in this state to maintain the roads and bridges. That has not been made a priority. The state budget for highway and bridge maintenance and construction today in 2005 is the same as it was in 1985.
Yeah, to me, that just doesn't seem possible. Is that really right?
It is absolutely a fact. And what has happened to the cost of that maintenance and construction through those years. That is why. I mean, it's easy to see why our roads and bridges are in the deplorable condition that they are in. And so continue to push for these policies to put the dollars where they belong, making major investment for the future, put policies in place that will attract jobs, attract business and industry to our state, will keep our college graduates here in the state of Oklahoma. So as Lieutenant Governor, I will continue to be an advocate for these policies, to support those individuals in the legislature that are on the forefront pushing these policies, serve as an advocate for them, serve as an advocate for the state, traveling, with the governor many times and to recruit people to come to Oklahoma, to talk about the good things that we have in Oklahoma, because we are at a point where we have a lot of tremendous natural resources. We have people, we have a tremendous workforce in this state. I've heard about that all over the state from employers that have worked in other states. The quality of our workforce is second to none. And so we have a lot to build upon, but it takes leadership. It takes some people that's willing to get the bull by the horns and go out there and really push it forward, and that's exactly what I would do as Lieutenant Governor.
This last session we saw some publicity about the Lieutenant Governor trying to preside over the Senate, and the Senate not being very, very helpful in that regard, and finally got worked out. We also know that the balance of Democrat versus Republican in the Senate is very close, and after these elections may be even closer, or may change, or may be even.
Right.
If you were Lieutenant Governor, I presume you feel like you've had some experience that would enable you to preside over the Senate, if called upon to do so.
Certainly. I think my legislative experience would serve me very well there, and that is a dynamic of the Lieutenant Governor's office that is different. I mean, this particular 4-year period of Oklahoma's history will be very interesting for the Lieutenant Governor's office, because the first time in history you could see, I mean, it's likely that we'll see a state Senate that's either equally divided or if not equally divided, will be one off one way or the other in terms of Democrat Republican, and so the Lieutenant Governor most likely will play an active role in the decisions. And really, that's really where if you look at trying to advance policy and change the state right now, that's where the change needs to occur. The state Senate is the area that still, the House has changed. The House is under new management. The state Senate continues to run off of some of the old guard tactics, and this next election cycle could produce a situation where we could actually put the state Senate under new management, and I think the Lieutenant Governor may be the one that casts the tie-breaking vote to do that.
Let's talk about this 2006 legislative session that's coming up, and let's turn the clock ahead 6 months. This session will be a success if, fill in the blank there. What will we look back on the 2006 session and say it was successful because we did this, this, and this?
First of all, will be a success if the leaders will be able to put election year politics on the side and keep the issues before the state at the forefront. The issues are lawsuit reform, continue to ratchet down the income tax, the elimination of the estate tax, continue to make greater state investment into our roads and bridges.
What about our parks and lodges, state lodges? Where are you on selling those, leasing those, or just owning and managing them as a part of our tourism?
Well, I think it depends on which area you're looking at. I think there are some that are operating very well as state-owned facilities. There are others that should be turned to the private sector for handling. The state has tried to do too much in too many places and basically watered down their efforts, and we're not doing an effective job in all those. We've scattered out our resources to the extent that we're not doing an effective job. And you know, tourism it's an industry that in many states is in the top three job creators, economic drivers, I should say, of the state. And Oklahoma has some tremendous opportunity in the area of tourism, and I'm excited about diving into that arena as it relates to economic development in the state.
How's the dairy farm business going?
You know, I sold the dairy interest 2 years ago and transitioned into cow-calf operation, all beef cattle. Much easier to manage than that dairy. I don't have to milk twice a day anymore.
You don't have to get up quite so early.
That's right.
And cattle futures are okay?
Yeah, cattle business is good right now if we can keep these fires down.
Let me I don't know how much time
we got. About 30 seconds.
Okay, 2007 Centennial Celebration. What do you think about it?
Well, an exciting time for Oklahoma, and what a wonderful time for Oklahoma to be on the turning point economically, from a policy standpoint. Oklahoma's future is very promising, and I think this our time of Centennial Celebration will be that turning point. Will go down in history as such.
All right. Speaker of the House, Todd Hiett, thanks for coming on The Verdict.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you again.
Kent and I'll have a final word when we get back.
Okiwani is an Indian name for a place where children play. When we obtained the camp, we found a lot of oil debris left in the woods. We saw a commercial about how the oil and natural gas industry cleans up old oil well sites. We called the OERB, and they agreed to remove tons of concrete and steel. It didn't cost us a thing. Thousands of children have left their footprints on this land. Thanks to the oil and gas industry, they will for a long time to come.
Bringing out the best in each student. That is the simple goal and tradition of Heritage Hall. The focus on the individual shapes the educational experience at Heritage Hall. Each student benefits from small classes, able, dedicated teachers, a solid academic curriculum, and exceptional co-curricular programs of athletics, arts, community service, and other activities, parental involvement, personalized counseling, and the development of responsibility, integrity, and love of learning. If you want education taught with pride, then you want Heritage Hall.
The Cox Channel. More sports. More fans. More cheerleaders. More fun. Nobody does more local sports, and nobody does it better.
Hello? Anybody home?
Hi.
Digital Max. Welcome to the neighborhood. Hello, kid. Whoa! I haven't seen a digital tangle like that since... Yeah. You need Cox Connections. With one connection, you get the whole digital enchilada. Kind of like this.
Wow.
What are you waiting for?
Get one connection to all your digital services from Cox.
I think I pulled something.
Your friend in the digital age.
Welcome back to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers. We just finished an interesting show discussing state issues with Speaker of the House Todd Hiett.
Yes, very charming and bright fellow who's a candidate for lieutenant governor, and I'm sure he'll be a formidable candidate for that position. It's interesting in Speaker Hyatt's service. He came in as the first Republican speaker since the 20s, I guess, and the Republican majority changed a lot of the rules, and there was a lot of falderall about it, a lot of yelling that this was going to destroy a lot of things, but that, frankly, in retrospect, does not seem to have happened. I don't know whether the House is running any smoother or not, maybe not, not for us to say, but certainly he has shown strong leadership. He has shown an ability to build a consensus with a Democratic governor and a Democratic President Pro Tem of the Senate. I suspect he'll run a campaign that will be every bit as formidable.
Last year's session was pretty fiery when you consider the House and the Senate together, and this has all the makings of another. We'll see if cooler heads prevail and things do get done, but the skeptics that are out there certainly have some ammunition, because it will be interesting to see with the Senate threatening to turn to the R side. This could be a very interesting session.
Yes, and there will be a lot of positions taken in this session that will be brought back up and rehashed in the November general election.
Big election year. Let's take a look at some website information. TheVerdict.tv is our website. You can go there and get more information on this show, and log on, send us an email, tell us about a topic that you'd like to see on a future edition of The Verdict, and you can go to toddhiett.com to get more information about the Speaker of the House. For Kent Myers, I'm Mick Cornett. We'll see you next week on The Verdict.
The preceding program was produced by the Production Services Group at Cox Communications, exclusively for the Cox Channel.